Welcome to the Finance Geeks, a podcast about real financial planning. If you're into numbers, strategies, and building a great planning business, this is your ultimate geeky hangout.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 4 of the Finance Geeks podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Warren Shute. I'm here joined by...
Old Lewis!
So, Paul, what have you been up to?
Been training a second advisor at the office. She's been watching a lot of my client videos. Ready to hopefully become competent soon and let her at the clients. She's going to be good.
Did you say she's been watching some of the podcasts, some of the Finance Geeks videos?
She's watched all of them. Oh, it's part of the training. Yeah,
nice.
She's listened to them, watched them. What better training is there?
Absolutely.
So what else have I been doing? I've been watching Predator on my new cinema screen. I mean, absolutely brilliant. My friend Tim came round and I said, I've got all these films out that might be appropriate for the big TV. And I said, what do you want to watch? And he went through them and he said, right, let's watch this. So we had the Govee lights behind the TV and the bar lights and all these other lights. We had them all green and on sort of forest AI. So it was cool. We had it blasted up. And I mean, is there a better scene in a movie where Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger have the handshake? Dylan, Dutch use SOB. Yeah. So anyway, we'll move on.
What does Alison say when you do these things?
What does she say? She knows me by now. She knows I love 80s movies. And, you know, most of my discussion with Alison is in the form of 80s or movies quotes or maybe music quotes. Come on, I'm going to tell you what else I did. I took my dog to the sort of beauty salon, Nelson. I decided it was time that he got professionally groomed. So they did his teeth and his paws and his coat. Been to St. Albans to watch Rod Gilbert. Very, very amusing, albeit it's quite sad as well because his latest sketch, if you like, is called the Giant Grapefruit, and it's all about him having cancer. So it's all quite sad, but it makes it very funny at the same time. And I've just come back from Scotland just yesterday. I've been up to see my mum at a hospital up there. And I think it's relevant to our discussion today because she's only 77 at the end of this month. And she's unfortunately, she's in recovery, but she'd had a bleed on the brain. And it just, when you consider that my dad's 88 and still working on the railway, as a volunteer and fit as a fiddle, it just reminds you how precarious life can be and how, sometimes you can just get unlucky. I mean, I think she's on the mend, but it's made me really think about my life and discussions with clients because these things can happen to anybody.
Yeah, they
any
can.
time.
Yeah. And do you know what? I think my view of things is tainted, and I'm being honest here, because of my dad's longevity. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'll have that same sort of good fortune. It kind of hit me a bit when Paul Etheridge died in his early 80s, and he always said he planned to age 100. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
You know lots of financial planners. I know lots of financial planners. These things come up in discussion quite a lot about the graphs that we do, the projections that we do. And you've said in previous podcasts how for younger clients, you sometimes model it up to 105 or 110. And yet,
110.
Yeah, I get that. And yet the statistics in the UK are that for a man, life expectancy is 78.8 and for a woman, 82.8. And this is from the Office of National Statistics, albeit it's about 3 years out of date, this. But, it's not 100 in any way, shape or form. It's probably low to mid 80s today as a best guess, because, again, you've got to go on statistics. And there's what's called health or healthy life expectancy.
We're kind of going off. We're going on to the main body of the conversation, really. So let's sort of rein it back in, Paul. Come on, rein it back in.
I was going to ask you what you've been up to.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for asking. What have I been up to?
Straight into it. Yeah,
I've not been up to anything, so we can move on to the main body. I'm only joking.
So you've probably been playing more golf, yes, and traveling.
We had probably the best CISI financial planning conference to date.
Is that because you spoke at it?
I speak it at most years, so it wasn't because I spoke at it. I just thought the location was excellent. Everyone enjoyed the location. The buzz, the vibe in the air was very good. The layout of where the exhibitors were and the sessions were very good. They had some really good main platform speakers and breakout sessions. And yeah, I thought, hats off. Hey, I'm very happy to say when things aren't going well. But I also like to congratulate. I think Becky, who organised it, did a fantastic job, and Chris Morris, who's now head of financial planning, there, has done a great job. So yeah, fair play to them. They did a good job. Really enjoyed it, and I want them to have it there again next year.
Say hats off to them for that being the case, because I know you're very honest about these things. I unfortunately missed it this year.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to attend for various reasons, but I would hope to come to future ones. But you said you think it's improving the format then?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Do you know, I think they were up against a sticky wicket or a hard game, because the IFP, when they had it at Celtic Manor, was an excellent conference. There was a great buzz in the air and everyone seemed to have a good time. And then when they took over, there was a bit of transitional disturbance, turbulence in the air and stuff. But I think they've pulled it back. They've listened, they've stuck to the guns, and yeah, I think the committee that put the conference together as well did a good job. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a great time. Start off with a fantastic meal with you and a few of the guys. I thought that was really good. And a round of golf the next day to start the conference off, and then a couple of days of conference. And then we had a meal. Keith, David Gow, and his colleague went out for a bite to eat, which was fantastic. And yeah, had a good time. And then come back and then settle back into reality and packing boxes and dealing with house moving and stuff like that. So.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
is that still going on?
It's still going on. We've got an exchange date. Exchange date beginning of November. Completion, we're going for the 21st of November. So everyone's aware of that before the budget, just in case she messes with stamp duty and things. So
okay.
Yeah,
so completion before the end of November.
Yeah, 21st November. Yeah, before the budget, on the 26th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the target date. So doing that, Cheltenham Literary Festival was on. So my wife and I went down to see some things down there, which was very good. Had a nice. I really like it. It's nice. I love listening to interesting people, and I think that's why I listen to you, Paul, so much. It's when they're talking about their books and what they've been up to. It's great, honestly. It's really good.
What
so I really
festival was it? Say again. Which festival?
In Cheltenham, they have the Literacy Festival, which is where relatively famous people who are launching their books will go and they'll do an hour presentation, talk about their book and things like that. And last year, embarrassingly, I forget the lady's name, but I took my daughter to see this lady speak, and she was excellent. She was really good. She wrote Bridget Jones's Diary, and not my kind of thing, but I went. My wife wasn't well, so I took Bella. My Bella wants to go, and I loved it. I thought she was brilliant. I thought she was so, she was really, really good. So I've always sort of thought, like to go back and listen to these things. It's good. We went this year. We went to the Times session, and the editors of the Times were sat there on the stage. Says, "Look, we're going to reenact what we're going to do ordinarily in our office," and they planned Monday morning's front page headlines and what they were going to cover, and they back and forth.
That's
and it was really interesting how they did it. And of course, we got the time. We have the Times subscription. We've got the Times up, and what they said was on the front page. So it was true to life. So yeah, real good fun. What their views are, and oh my god, are they wise? Are they smart? They're in your league. Knowing information about what's going on around the world and stuff like that. It was really, really impressive to hear. So I enjoyed that.
Good.
But
good stuff. More of the same. We're broadening our minds by going to these things, aren't we?
Yeah. No, it's good fun. So, Paul, let's move on to the main focal point of today's podcast and talk about the longevity challenge. Are we ready for a 100-year life? So you started talking just a moment ago about actuarially dates of death and things. So just repeat that for us and say where you were.
Yeah. So I was saying that according to the ONS, the 21 to 23 period life expectancy, these are the obviously actual statistics, that for a man at that point it was 78.8 and for a woman it was 82.8. And I think that there's a perception that we're all going to live to our late 80s, 90s, live to 100. And we're saying that a very typical financial planner projection chart would be to age 100. Sometimes it's beyond that. I think that when I consider how many centennials that I know or have heard of, centenarians that I know or have heard of, it's in the minority. Everyone's got a grandma who lived to 100 and smoked, and she gave up at 97, or as a story of someone who's just old. But the reality is that I don't think the statistics show today that it's realistic for everybody. So this idea of planning to that point seems a bit silly in some
Well,
ways.
okay, let me sort of jump in. I think, and I've got no evidence to back this up, but I think my understanding is that if you are more wealthy, your longevity tends to increase. And also, if you're more educated, I understand it increases because I think you're more aware of things that are healthier for you and you're able to both buy food that is healthier for you and seek medical treatment earlier and pay for things if you can. So I think if we think of our clients' demographic compared to the average, we're probably not doing apples and apples. We might be doing apples and pears. Most financial planners tend to deal with people who are, unfortunately, deal with people who are wealthier. And this is where we've got the advice gap, and who are more educated. And this is why I think more financial managers should go out into the workplace and sort of give their time, but sticking on point. I'm not saying that therefore our clients' average age will be 100, but I think we've got to be careful to look at the averages and say, okay, well, that's the average. So that will be more typical for our client base.
Yeah, the when you by definition when you get in the statistics, they're historic, and because of that, it's people that would have lived through, in some cases, the Second World War and tough times, and times when perhaps, as you say, and it averages out to the masses, to give you this figure of late 70s or early 80s. But with scientific advances, and as you say, with those that make better decisions with their money, with their mind, with their body, it seems very possible to live to 90 or 100. I mean, what's the alternative? If you don't plan to 100, what do you do then? Do you say, well, I'll plan to 85? And what if you spend all the money by that time and the person's run out? The very essence of being a financial planner is to make sure someone doesn't run out of money.
That's very much a Paul Etheridgeism. Sounded like Paul then for a moment. I was like, wow, I'm talking to Paul on the screen.
Thank you.
But it's true. What's the alternative? What age would you like to plan to? I think it's a good enough age that statistically, like you said, few people are going to reach that age. So if we're able to get our clients to enjoy their money down to that age, they're probably going to be in a good position. And also what I say is, we probably all say, our world shrinks as we age. We talk about these chapters with our clients, and as they get into the final chapter, which is an awful expression, their expenses tends to just go down to nothing. They're running costs of the house and things. That's it. They don't go traveling. They don't go out for meals and that kind of thing. So
it's partly because you can't. Because if you get to a certain point where your body fails you, your mind might be sharp, but there are not that many people, in my opinion, in their 80s. Again, I don't have statistics for this, but it's just to observe that can, get up out of a chair without using their arms. Your core muscles just shrink away. It's a big thing for me talking about fitness with clients to help with their longevity, and that balance, that spending your money on things that are going to elongate your life, spending your money on things that you get enjoyment from, but remembering that health is wealth and that you can't buy time back. If you're in a period of where you're overweight, where you're not particularly healthy, you can try to improve, but it's very difficult to unwind it all completely. It's all to do for me with habits and routines. And if you want to experience things in the future, it doesn't have to be travel to the other side of the world, but picking up your grandchildren, or walking to the park. It really comes, close to home with me when I see that my mother's only 76, 77 at the end of this month, and she's unable at the moment because of an issue to feed herself and unable to sort of walk. And she's learning to sort of use her arms and legs again, if you like. And so, it can happen at any time to anybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can do things to prevent it, to assist with living longer.
Prior to this condition, was your mother's health relatively good?
I think it was probably average, in all honesty. You find that this is, again, very typical. As people get older, their bones become weaker. They often get arthritis. They often get overweight. Blood pressure goes up. These things are just natural forms of aging. Very few people are like, the same weight they were when they're in their 20s and 30s when they get to 80. You do get some people whose muscle mass shrivels away, if you like, and so forth. But a lot of the time you do less walking, you've got less mobility, and you can't burn as many calories. So
Yeah.
you've almost got to challenge that by still doing something, still doing some exercise, some walking, some muscular activity, and consuming less. But of course, if you get to 70 and 80 and you get pleasure out of eating and drinking, and you're sedentary all day, you're going to be overweight, and it's all a snowball effect, isn't it?
It is, it's an interesting one. I kind of a bit hypocritical here because I sort of say to my clients, I look after health and stuff like exercise, move, what kind of exercise. And I talked about their key stats on their health biomarkers and things. Yet when I'm with my mum and she's saying things like, oh no, I'm not going to have that because I'm going to watch my blood sugar. I'm like, Mum, you're 84 years old. Eat what the hell you want. It's like you're on the home stretch. I love you to bits, but let's just make sure this bit is the most fun bit. It's there's no point. But I said earlier, and I think belief systems is a strong part of this. I think our belief systems, what we believe about what our longevity is going to be and what we're going to be like as big, is going to have a big impact. I carry these belief systems through reality. I can remember my dad doing a roly-poly in the back garden with my daughter Bella. So she's 18. That means he was 82 when she was born. So he must have been about 85.
Right.
Now that's just crazy. How many 85-year-olds?
Forward roll.
Yeah, you just don't do it, right? 85. You just, that's not the sort
of. It took him 3 months to recover from that. I don't know.
Probably did. But on the flip side, I think his target was 100. Now, he passed away in the months following his birthday. I don't think he was ready to go to 101. So it comes down to these belief systems. That makes sense. It's like he believed at 80 he was able to do these things, but he also believed that actually I'm getting to 100 and I'm going to sort of check out.
You have a good phrase that says, make your future bigger than your past. Is it that? Is that what it is? Yeah.
I coined it from Dan Sullivan. I didn't create it myself. So Dan Sullivan says, make your future bigger than your past.
You just mentioned there about mindset. I think that the key is to longevity is genetics. So you can't control that. You get your genetics. Is good luck. The sort of luck, is part of it for sure. Not good luck. Yeah, just luck itself. Your lifestyle, which is obviously is everything from how much sleep you get to what you eat, what you consume. Do you go to the gym, that sort of stuff. And then the fourth part of it is your mindset, because you've got to have something to live for, haven't you? You've got to have some reason. You've got to want to live that long. And I'd be interested to find out. I mean, she passed away now, but the oldest woman in living history was Jean Calment, French lady, 122 and 164 days. She died in 4th of August 1997, and I've included her Wikipedia link at the end of this. But it's very funny. I used her in a presentation we did to clients once, where she was smoking until age 110, and she stopped because she couldn't see the end of the cigarette to light it.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I don't think if you asked her, she said, "Oh, I never smoked, I never drank." There's actually lots of stories of people who, I mean, my dad, for example, who's 88 and is fit as a fiddle, he puts it down, his longevity, to routine, discipline, moderation, and a small glass of red wine every night. I mean, just without fail. And sometimes like a couple of blocks of little squares of dark chocolate. I mean, whatever it is, if that routine's working and, he's not eating to excess or drinking too much or consuming too much, and as long as he's getting the right sleep, it's obviously something that he's done that's helped. It could just be luck. It could just be genes, But
I think you're right. I think those are definitely key attributes of a long, sustainable life. Luck's in there, genetics in there, definitely. But I think the only thing I would say is probably not necessarily gym, but movement. Does that make sense? I think
it doesn't have to be heavy weight. It just be movement.
Just movement.
Burning some calories. There's an interesting statistic as well with the ONS that instead of talking about just longevity, it talks about healthy life expectancy. And it gives that for a man, it's 60. This is the ONS statistics from 2021 to 23. And it says for a man, it's 61 and a half. And for a woman, it's 61.9. And what that means is that they're healthy for that period of their life, which means that men have 17.3 years in poor health, and on average, and women have 20.9 years in poor health. So although women live longer statistically, they live longer like than men, but it's still in poor health. And very few people go all the way to 85, 90, 100 with no health issues at all.
No.
There's always something, very, very typically.
But I guess if those health issues are resolvable, then it's just like a bump in the road, isn't it? I think it's when those health issues derail you and you have to change your lifestyle. And it's like, because I think so many people will have some kind of health issue during their lifetime, but it's how that it can be managed and keep you on track. But listen, so that means I'm 10 years away. I'm 51 this year. I feel I'm just not even reaching my prime. I think life's, it's like, all I've got to do now is get my daughter driving, and then I think I might have just reached my prime like that.
For me, this opens the whole discussion about longevity. It can easily turn negative and be a bit morbid to sort of think about the time that you've got left, and yet it should be in the other opposite. It should be a blessing. It should be, okay, I'm going to enjoy every minute. I'm going to, because it's not like all my life's in front of me when you're a teenager or in your 20s and you don't think about, you think you're invincible. And as soon as you get past your 30s and certainly your 40s, your six-pack goes as a man. Things that you can hurt your back just by getting out of bed. Children wear you down, and you generally feel older. And as you get older now, this concept of feeling you're just as old as you feel, okay, or you're just as old as the woman you feel, or like
man you feel,
age is just a number, the man you feel, or whatever it is, whatever your preference. But it's interesting because it all comes down to, from a financial planning point of view, to sort of making sure you're utilizing your money, planning for it, preparing for it, allocating it in a way that works for you. That's honestly relative to your situation. If you're early 60s and you're in good health, and you think, right, I've got all, my mum and dad lived to be 90, I've got time in front of me. You don't necessarily want to spend all your money in your 60s and then have none later on in life. I'm sure you've met with clients though that are not particularly healthy, and I've done the same, where they don't believe they're going to live to 100. And the discussion then becomes, okay, well, if you want to do things, get on with it now. Spend your money now before it's too late to do it.
You've actually just raised a really interesting point, and something that's just come to me is that, I wonder if it's going to add value to both the client relationship and the planning process, is if we ask the client what their parents' health was like and what age they passed away, what their lifespan, their health span was like, and when their lifespan was like, to try and see
part of the discussion.
Yeah, I don't ask, unless we're doing a medical application, obviously.
Well, one thing I'm sure I know that some financial planners ask, and this came up in a discussion with Esther today. She was surprised that I don't ask my clients what their upbringing with money was like. And I just think back, and I've not really, what it was like growing up. As in, did they have a lot of money? Did their parents have a lot of money? Did they have no money? Are they self-made? Did they make all the money? Did they inherit money? I mean, where did it come from? Because it all determines how you spend money now and what it means to you and so forth. Clients that are savers all their lives for 40 years plus. I've met some just last week, recently, lovely clients, mid to late 60s, trying to encourage them to spend more money, because I know from experience that they're likely to have, say, realistically, 7 to 10 more years of good health if they're lucky to be able to do the traveling that they've told me they want to do. And it's a quandary, because as the advisor, where you get remunerated based on assets under management, we're doing the flip side here. We're actually, instead of saying just have 3-4% withdrawal, in some cases, I'm intentionally telling clients, look, you should spend your money, do something with it now. And I thought, oh, well, that will mean they'll take a ridiculous withdrawal. They'll take all the money off, and they don't. They can't just flick a switch to say, oh, yes, just pay me 100 grand. I'll go on this. I'll just fly business class everywhere. Now, as you say, it's this. The whole conversation is to do with, for me, about making sure you're planning for the right longevity, the right time scale.
I wouldn't even worry about how much they take off the platform and stuff like that, because my view is, we're planning our clients' life, but we're also doing our own. And I want to be able to sit in my rocking chair, my last days, and think, I did a great job. I had fun.
Yeah.
I helped people live their life by design, not default. And we didn't think of anything else. In every year, we've encouraged clients to spend more money. Every year, we've had more clients come to us wanting to invest more money. And when you say they
It's
can't,
funny how it works, though, isn't it? It's funny how it works.
It is. It's amazing. But when you say you can't flip a switch, I agree with you. However, there's always an exception to the rule. We had a client the other day who wanted to withdraw £90,000. I'm like, yeah, no problems. What's it for? A holiday. I was like,
One holiday.
That's what I said.
That's got to be a.
Where are you going on £90,000? They're like, well, you said we really enjoyed Mauritius. Went to Mauritius with the girls the other year, and you said, why don't we do it again? We should go there. And I said, yeah, great. That was like 30,000 or something. He said, yeah. Well, the girls don't want a room on together anymore. They want to bring their boyfriends. So they want a cottage each. They have little cottages out there. So we need four cottages. And we're doing. You said business class. I'm like, hey. What a great experience. You won't get many more of these experiences left.
How many weeks were they going for?
I don't know, week, 10 days, something like that. I don't know how that long. I can't remember. But I remember the withdrawal was £90,000 and it was for a holiday. And I was like, hey, do you know what? They're living their best life because their daughters are getting to a stage where they got boyfriends and they won't holiday with them as much. There's only this window of opportunity to create these memories. And after that, you're going to have boyfriends or husbands, but in-laws, and you're gonna have grandchildren and stuff, and it's a different experience.
Yeah.
So
hey, whatever does it for you. It's interesting, isn't it? If you want to spend time with your family, you can book a big, Airbnb with 6 bedrooms and all go and have fun in it together, and that costs what it costs, for the period of time you're there. But it's interesting when you say they're drawing all that money out, and yet they're all staying in different cottages, and you're like. So you can come, but don't spend time with me. Go and do your own thing.
No, I don't think it's that. I think what they want to do is
courses, whatever.
I look at they're making it special for each individual girl, and they're going to have a great time. So I get it completely. Hey, I'd much rather cottage on my own or my wife than have all the kids in the same cottage.
Taking it back to longevity, I've got some statistics for you, Warren. Are you ready for this?
Right. So don't wait.
Remember, you are called a centenarian if you reach 100. And in the UK, according to stats, there are 14,850 centenarians in 2023.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot, doesn't it? Now, the population in the UK is around about 65 to 68 million. In Japan, the population's 121 million, so let's say double. Wow. It's not quite double, right? But in Japan, they've got 99,963 centenarians. So they've got 6.7 times the amount of centenarians that are in the UK. So it represents 0.08% of the population.
That's it. I'm going
to How are they living that long? How are they living that long over there? It's obviously lifestyle.
It's the geisha.
What else is it?
Geisha. It's geisha, it's karate, and it's chop suey. No, that's Chinese. It's sushi. It's man, I'm going to Wagamama's for tea.
Yes.
It is amazing. Why is it? I think it's. I watched I watched all the programs on this. I'm fascinated by longevity. Peter Attia, I love his sort of work and stuff. And there was a session on this area in Japan, which I know you know the name of it, but I'm going to forget it.
Okinawa.
Yeah, and they put it down to culture, family, environment, and getting up and down off the floor all the time. Because they eat off the floor, not off the floor.
Getting busy. It's keeping busy, isn't it? It's all to do with the lifestyle, community, having something to do, having a purpose, a reason to get up in the morning, and as I say, sense of community. I've watched the same sort of programs.
And let's link it back to financial planning. What a better reason to carry on your financial planning practice about sense of community. You're helping your clients live life by design all the time. And you've got your clients around you, your work colleagues around you. It's, why retire?
Think how much things have changed just in the last 50 years, or even less than that, last 30 years. Someone might, in the past, work to 65, get a DB pension scheme, live for 5, 10, 15 years, usually sort of 10 years, and then die. And over the very short period of time, life expectancy has increased dramatically. And we know that because of, the clients that we work with, because of their wealth, they're successful, some of them becoming financially independent in their early to mid 50s. And if they're going to live another 35 years plus, for example, they have to take it all very seriously about making sure the numbers work, making sure their withdrawal rate is not too great, making sure that they don't run out of money. And I have to bring it to the Nick Murray quote, the classic. It's making sure. In fact, he says we should plan so that the money outlasts us, not so that we outlast the money.
Yeah.
And so there's an article on our website, which I'm going to put the link for in the show notes, which is called Two Doors in Retirement. And it's making sure you go through the right door where the money outlasts you and not you outlasting the money.
Okay. Yeah, I think, I think we can do that by planning to 100. Statistically, most people aren't going to make it to 100. So, if we're able to have their cash flow dwindle down, so when they're at 100, they're in, relatively modest amounts of liquid funds, then they're going to have a strong profitable retirement. Bearing in mind, with our cash flows, we use Truth. They've still got their property that, outside that. So they've still got their property and they'll have their state pensions, any final salary pensions coming in. So,
it makes you think. Let's say you've got £1 million pot and you take the, regardless of whether it's ISA, GIA, pension, cash, whatever. If you're going to withdraw 4%, 40 grand a year from it, and say, look, I think that's a sustainable rate of withdrawal, factor in inflation of, say, 3%. So you need growth of sort of 7% plus, that sort of figure, to sustain the buying power of your money. But in reality, the amount that clients withdraw changes. They spend more one year, less the next, and so forth. Let's say it's more in their 60s and early 70s and less in their 80s and 90s. The reality, though, is that if you were a total realist and you said, look, I'm not going to plan for 100, I'm going to plan for 85, maybe it's 82. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I've got an expensive house. And even if I do spend all my money by drawing 6 or 7% a year and have a lot of fun with it, spend it, give it away, do something, don't dwindle down the pot, I could still, when I need to go into a care home, sell my home, which might be worth 500,000, $1 million, whatever it's worth, and then use that money to fund my care home. And the point is, you can turn these things on the head. You've heard the book Bill Perkins, Die with Zero. You don't die with zero by keeping it all invested and just drawing down the minimum. Yeah. But I think that it comes down to a discussion at least once a year, sometimes more, twice a year, with the advisor, with your client, talking about everything from their health to their requirements for money, and planning out certainly the next 3 to 5 years, as well as the long term, to say, what do you need the money for? Come on, let's spend it. And you make decisions as you go. I think you can't fully plan out to the nth degree the next 30 or 40 years of your life without change and discussion.
I completely agree. But I think also that clients become more vulnerable as they age, and therefore the thought of selling their house and downsizing and this, that, and the other at a late age is hard for a lot of people.
That's the reality, though, isn't it? Even though I've said there flippantly that they could do that, the reality is not many people want to do that. They've been in the house for all that time. It's a family home. They don't want to just sell it like it's like they're a robot and just say, I'll just use the proceeds. And the longer that the timescales are that they need their money to last, the more they need the discipline of withdrawal rate. That more that sequencing risk becomes a bigger issue, the longer the time horizon. You get these longevity shocks. You get you have to have conservative assumptions, and you have to have contingency planning, and you have to make sure that you're not, behaving your way to
going broke,
poverty, to complete poverty. Misbehaving their way to poverty, as Andy Hart says, cleverly. Just because you can spend the money now and have fun doesn't mean you should. Because I think people underestimate bumps in the road, like the cost of long-term care, the cost of operations or something that they might need, and when everything's going smoothly and you're just spending your income that's coming in, let's say that's 4%, and everything's fine. If you've not planned for the big expenditures, whether that's a massive holiday that you want to do or whether it's helping your children on the property ladder or something, it just means that you railroad your plans completely.
Yeah. No, completely. Do you know, I don't know how anyone does the job without some form of cash flow. Does that make sense? Because all these moving parts and things I find really hard to keep track of. And having some kind of software or tool that allows you to project out to the future and put these things in makes it reassuring and easier.
I think all of it for me stresses the importance of financial planning, and it reminds me of the job that we do. It's not all about, in fact, very little of it is about in the investment process or returns, discussing markets. Everybody wants a good return, or discussing, the current state of the economy. I mean, all of these things are, topical, but talking about health, longevity, making sensible decisions, getting that trade off between being generous and spending your money and being prudent and maintaining that balance, I think is incredibly important,
Yeah.
because you can't just make somebody spend too much money. And similarly, you don't want, as the advisor, you don't want to restrict the money that the client has and just sort of feel as if you're a Scrooge, or holding the tap half closed, that you're just saying, oh, yeah, you should only draw 3%. Let's be prudent. I want the clients to live their best lives and enjoy that, as well as us help them get that balance right, to
Yeah.
feel that they're in control, that their money's going to last during the discussions we have with them over the years as they get older. If the markets have gone up lots, sometimes I'll say, right, well, let's look at now at gifting. Let's
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
making these gifts to your kids. If it's going to make you happy, let's do that. It's a constant process, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's financial planning in getting the clients. I think the clients often get a lot of joy, particularly the wives, of seeing the money go to their children during their lifetime, rather than just leaving it, on death. So, yeah, no, it's good. And like I said, with the computer tools that we have available to us, and I think they can be improved even more. Will help us, deliver this service, this advice to clients even more.
I want to get back to the mindset aspect, the cognitive health. Because if someone's got all the money in the world and they're young and they're healthy, if they're not inspired or motivated, if they don't have this new sense of identity or sense of purpose or a project or something that they're doing, you you find it very, very difficult to transition from work to not working. And then if you're not working and you're doing something else, what is that? What is going to get you to help you get up in the morning and do something of value?
Yeah.
To have a sense of purpose that's bigger than yourself, be part of something bigger than yourself. It's not just about spending money on yourself and even just your family. It brings huge amounts of joy, and I think assists with your longevity if you've got this sense of community, sense of purpose. Maybe you're helping out at a charity, maybe you're trying something else, maybe you're writing a book, whatever it is. If you can get to a point where you're focused on something and you've got you can reduce your stress levels and get that balance right, everything's going to be better. I think you've got something to live for then, and you can enjoy your money.
You're making your future bigger than your past. You're
Yeah,
having
exactly.
you're having something to move forward towards, to get you up early and have this. And go back to what you said about your dad having this routine. We often sort of talk to our clients in the retirement transition period about, okay, what will your new routine look like? What will your typical day look like? What will your week look like? So they've got some kind of structure in it, because I've said the worst thing you can do after working 40 years and having a routine is just waking up and thinking, oh, what should I do today?
That's awful. That must be miserable, to be honest. I know that that's dictated sometimes by people's health. There's certain things that they can't do. Some people can't just say, do you know what? I want to go to do Machu Picchu or Kilimanjaro. And they're like, oh, yeah, but my knees are short. I can't really do that. But what you can do is be inspired. And one of the things that I think a good advisor will do is try to inspire the client by giving them ideas. It's the very reason we have our second website called planningyouradventure.co.uk, link in the show notes. And try to inspire clients and motivate them to have fun and do different things. I'm not trying to sell them anything about that website.
I know it just made me laugh when it just sounded like a plug. But I completely agree with you. But sometimes this is actually interesting, because we're the opposites today. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. And I find it much easier. If a client is not a spender, I find it much easier getting them as a client when they're employed, in encouraging them to spend a bit more money and be a bit more generous than it is once they're financially independent, they've retired, they've gone into early stages of retirement, because then they're reliant on capital. It's not impossible to get them to change. It just takes a little bit more educating and looking at the cash flow and knowing the numbers and stuff. But I can come out of some meetings sometimes feeling exhausted, where I've tried to get the clients to, do things, and the penny just hasn't dropped. I almost feel a failure.
Yeah.
It can be a bit disheartening. So, and then sod's law, 6 months later, they turn around and say, oh, can I draw that money? I'm going to go and do that holiday. You're like, what? Where did that come from? You didn't say anything before.
But if you've explained it in a way, the money aspect of it, where the client understands they're not going to run out, they have to first of all believe that you can look after the money so they don't have to. Now, it's not the same for every client. Some people are very keen to look at their models, their portfolio, talk about the markets, have a look at it. As much as you say, don't look at it, it'll be fine. The reality is most people have a look. And then it should be a case where they trust their financial planner. They've got a regimen, a routine, a process. You've agreed the withdrawal rates. You've agreed the next X many years. As part of the main role of the advisor, it's to continue to have that trust with your client, so that they continue to believe that they should sit in their seat. They should make sensible decisions with you. And sometimes, if I'm encouraging the client to spend money, something might have changed, and over time, the client will. It's not my job to tell them how to spend their money, but you can ask them what brings them joy and fulfillment, and then just try and sow the seeds sometimes and say, right, well, let's use your money for this, and let's do this, and have you done that, and do you like holidays? Okay, let's do. And you just say you shouldn't beat yourself up if you can see the client's got loads of money, but they're intrinsically a saver. You can't make them spend it.
Yeah, it's a muscle, just like if you're a runner, if you've never run before, it's unlike you're going to go out and just run the marathon. You got to start with just maybe the run down the street and then the park run and sort of develop it there. Same with spending money. It's a muscle and it's a habit. Some people are natural spenders. They enjoy spending money. They like it. Other people like to see their money grow, and really just need to be able to see the fulfillment behind what they can get. But ultimately, one thing we all want in life is more happiness, and we go about it in different ways, whether we get significance or contribution or whatever. We get the ego of having more money. What brings them more happiness? And dare I say, if it does bring them more happiness, seeing their portfolio grow, you just have to make sure that they've seen the other side. And if they're still happy with that, then who are we to change their mind?
It's odd because, as I say, it's sort of contradiction in terms, isn't it? It's a conflict of interest in reverse, if you like, where you're encouraging the client to take their money off the platform and spend it, and yet the optimal client for any advisor is one that takes a small withdrawal, keeps it invested, doesn't touch it because the assets are going up. I mean, that's that. Yeah. So anyway, I must say we cannot finish this conversation without talking about inflation, because I think that it's underestimated by lots and lots of individuals as to how important it is to make sure you retain the buying power of your money. I have so many conversations with clients that are sort of initially, because they don't know the alternative, they're happy with getting 4% gross return in cash in the bank, because previously, more than 5 years ago, it was like 0.5%. Oh, that's brilliant, 4%. And yet, when I said to a client today that since COVID, which was nearly 6 years ago, believe it or not now, 5 years, nearly 10 months ago, Jan 2020, since then, inflation is up about 35 to 40%. It's crazy. Now, if your portfolio's gone up in value lots, that's great. Markets have gone up there. But you've got to realize that when you're drawing 4%, if that's your number, you've got to account for both costs, taxes, and inflation. If you don't, and your portfolio needs to continue to grow to allow you to have that income level, which is theoretically should go up every year.
People appreciate that. I think what they probably don't appreciate is the necessity to take more equity exposure. I think, clients really need to have their money in the markets to make sure that they are combating those extra drags on their portfolio.
Yes, yeah, and we know that equities are the optimal asset class for them to own to sort of outperform, or at least keep track with inflation. They'll usually outperform it, and so. But what's interesting is that a client that's taking a monetary amount, let's say it's £3,000 a month, they often do it for a number of years, and very rarely do they come back to us and say, "Do you know what? Inflation's 3.5%, 4%. I need to up it from 3,000 to whatever that is, 3,100 or so." And you almost, they'll live within those means.
you definitely want to make sure that their lifestyle is at least being maintained by inflation and, hopefully growing. They're looking forward to a brighter future. We just had a client come back from Japan, not too similar to yourself, absolutely fell in love with it. It's an amazing holiday and they're planning their next one. Yeah. So it's great. Should we call it a wrap for that? Should we kind of conclude the session around the lines of saying that, hey, look, we should be really challenging our clients' beliefs around longevity and their health span, and sort of trying to make sure that they are living their best life, to use your language now, and that you're making sure that they've got their finances arranged in such a way that they're growing their wealth so that they've got money for futures, not being eroded by inflation.
It's individual for everybody, and that it's better to plan for the worst, as in you live longer so that your money doesn't run out, than it is just to spend it too quickly. It's a discussion with the client constantly. But I think we're not concluding, contrary to perhaps some of the things I've said earlier, that you just plan to 80 or 85. One should still plan to 100 and make sure categorically that the money doesn't run out. But at the same time, get that balance right so that they enjoy it.
On that, we don't want to make sure the money runs out, so we don't want it to go down in, for example, in the red. But equally, we don't want cash flows going up at 45 degrees growing. There's no point in your clients having £1 million of ready realizable assets, money they can spend at 100 years old. Get them to enjoy it, gift it, enjoy it, spend it, do whatever they can to it. So Paul,
right, Q&A.
What have you got for us?
So I've got one quote and one anecdote today, and
Nice.
Well, it's actually an analogy. I know we say quotes and anecdotes, but I've got a little analogy. So my quote is, and I don't actually, it's unknown this, but this is it. If your brain and body still want to run the race, your finances must be up to the distance.
Okay, I like that. That's good. If your brain and your body want to run the race, your finances will run to the distance. I like that.
They do. So the analogy is about the ultra marathon versus the sprint, and it's imagining life as a race. So the traditional model treats retirement like a 100-meter dash. You finish your working sprint, then you coast to the finish. But in a longevity world, retirement's more like an ultra marathon. You need pacing, you need reserves, you need energy management, and to plan for the long haul. You can't sprint hard in the first leg and expect to finish strong. And I think that relates to both the money aspect. If you spend too much too quickly, you'll run out, and also to your lifestyle and your health. If you get to 60 and you spend the next 5 to 10 years eating and drinking everything, a hedonistic lifestyle, it's not looking good for after that. Yeah, getting that balance right.
The analogies of finance and health are so interwound. I think they're so similar. About it's what you do consistently over time, looking at proven strategies as opposed to fad diets or fad get rich quick schemes, and just staying in the game. Just staying in the game. Let's call it a wrap for today. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, listening to us go on today about longevity and health span and living your best life to age 100. We will be back in 2 weeks' time, but thank you for tuning into the Finance Geeks. That's bye from me.
Thanks, guys. Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Finance Geeks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. Drop your comments and questions on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on social media. Join us next time for more insights to boost your financial planning game.